In the middle of a burning city, terrified people look up at the sky, horrified by the spectacle. A grotesque creature materializes, and they quickly realize that it is a supreme predator. A terrifying fusion of multiple beasts made them wonder how many creatures he had consumed. Without warning, the jaws of the abomination open, gathering energy for a devastating attack. He then unleashes the lightning, instantly shattering the windows of nearby skyscrapers. The deafening roar makes the civilians scream in agony, asking where the guild heroes are. In the resulting chaos, a desperate mother calls for help. Her daughter was left behind in the tumult. Police officers rush to evacuate the danger zone, ordering everyone to stand back. Just at that moment, a mysterious silhouette emerges from the clouds, forming a bluish sphere of energy. It's our hero, Su, flying towards the monster, to get into combat. The young man launches his attack, colliding with the creature's lightning in a massive explosion. The sheer force of the impact wounds our hero's hand. Despite the searing pain, he remains resolute, preparing to continue the struggle. When the monster fires another burst, he narrowly dodges it by streaking across the sky. The beast appears completely unharmed, without a single mark on its body. Seeing this, our hero materializes a sword of pure blue energy for hand-to-hand combat. Su lunges forward, aiming a direct blow at the giant monster's head. The attack succeeds squarely, and a satisfied smile is drawn on his lips when he sees the beast retreating. He lands, analyzing how the creature handles different forms of magic. The abomination's head is injured, but she still looks formidable and ready for another round. He imagines himself as the ultimate skill user, capable of mastering any power. In his mind, he is the hero of everyone's dreams, a truly great figure. But the scene changes drastically to a quiet and peaceful residential neighborhood. Suddenly, on a nearby bridge, someone screams desperately for help. A panicked woman pleads for someone to rescue her daughter from imminent danger. At that moment, a boy in a red cape appears, declaring that he is on his way to save the little damsel. The mother's frantic screams for her daughter resonate as the drama on the bridge escalates. The girl is dangling dangerously, but our protagonist catches up with her just in time. He holds her firmly, calming the terrified girl who is sobbing with fear. The young man gives her back her little shoe, saying, "I'm glad you're safe, princess." This is his Akutagaba, a 10th-year high school student. The girl looks at him, with sparkling eyes, completely captivated by her savior. However, a bully shows up, yelling at her and trashing her heroic moment. The burly teenager complains that he ordered his to run around the neighborhood only in his underwear. A blonde girl intervenes, asking who gave her permission to even get dressed. He comes up to her and teases, "Monkeys don't wear clothes." In response, Su lets out a peculiar laugh, slightly disconcerting the girl. Then he claims that this is not clothes, but the dream of a knight saving his princess. The girl he rescued looks on, unable to understand the situation. The thugs are shocked, and their leader asks him if he has lost his mind. The main bully furiously grabs our hero's cape, irritated by his strange behavior. He yells at Su, telling him to speak clearly because he doesn't understand a word he's saying. Just then, 2 police officers arrive to separate them, telling the teenagers to stop. But the blonde teenager ignores the officers, smugly pointing to a badge on his school uniform instead. Seeing the emblem, the expressions of the officers become serious. They realize that he is a skill user. The bully brags about having been accepted into the guild while still in high school. The guards warn him to take it easy, reminding him that the protection law has its limits. The blonde teenager mocks them, and, with a mocking smile, tells Su not to defend himself. Then she pulls Su by the hair, and invites him to play a little game of baseball, with a tone loaded with menace. He introduces himself as Gota Tekasi, and reveals his C-rank ability, Magic Ball. What follows is a sharp turn of events, completely altering the tone. It is explained that 60 years before, dungeons full of monsters appeared all over the world. His appearance unleashed a horde of creatures, plunging the world into unprecedented chaos. However, as a survival instinct, humanity began to evolve, awakening latent powers. People were born with special abilities, and managing these dungeons became a worldwide priority. Consequently, laws were quickly enacted to govern this new social reality. The skills were classified from, say, to protect and guide its users. One of these laws, forbidding the lower ranks to oppose the higher, spread a widespread tyranny. Abuse of power became the norm, a way for the strong to maintain their position over the weak. A rigid class society was re-established where the weak are ignored and oppressed by the powerful. The scene returns to the bridge, where another assailant hits our hero with a gust of wind. This is Igarashi, who wields his storm rank ability, with a malicious smile. The blow hits Su head-on, throwing him to the ground and leaving him covered in wounds. Before he can recover, he is hit again, this time shooting out against the railing of the bridge. Lying there, wounded, he sees the blonde girl jumping towards him to continue the assault. She comes down with a flying kick at top speed, squealing with excitement. The boy is beaten once again, and she mocks his inability to fly, use magic, or defend himself. Mercilessly, the girl rubs her foot on Su's head, humiliating him in front of the spectators. His name is Tobidamari, and he declares that a human without an ability is no better than a worm. His friend comments that he is getting too carried away with the situation. Despite being badly injured, Su mutters that his vision is failing, but that they are all the same. Gota prepares another attack, ordering the others to hold his while he feigns concern for the girl. The girl is hiding nearby, watching the whole scene with her eyes full of tears, absolutely terrified. The bully prepares his energy ball, commenting that it is an honor to play another round, but Su provokes him by calling him an uncontrolled amateur, that it can only depend on his ability. Despite the pain, a challenge spreads across the protagonist's face, with the intention of angering his tormentor. He adds that Gota seems to be an expert at hitting hitters, which earns him a punch in the stomach. The blonde teenager, enraged by the mockery, calls his a useless human and a parasite of society. He lunges for another punch, screaming that Su's only purpose is to be his punching bag. While receiving the blows, the protagonist thinks that he just needs to endure and act as if everything is fine. With a bloody mouth, he tells himself that a hero should never show weakness or cause anxiety. Gota's anger erupts as she calls him powerless trash and prepares another magical assault. At that moment, Su has a flashback of his drunk father calling him the exact same thing. Despite the painful memories, Su keeps a cold and determined gaze fixed on her attackers. He remembers being a little boy, suffering the constant abuse at home. His father blamed him for being born without ability, which prevented them from receiving help from the government. The man also said that it was his fault that his mother left, that she had abandoned them because of him. With pure hatred in his eyes, his father was screaming, wishing little Su had never been born. The scene changes to his apartment building, the window framing the loneliness of the night. Inside her cluttered room, posters of heroes adorn the walls, and there are books scattered on the floor. His notes detail studies on how to generate magic circuits in his palm, to create powers from scratch. Lying on the bed, covered with bruises, the young man wondered why he was born without a skill. Even without power, he continued his studies, calculating the energy loss in the air and its trajectory. The guy analyzed the limits of the human body, looking for ways to extract its maximum potential. He thinks to himself that he could handle those skills much better than these bullies. Then he remembers the only game he won as a child, the memory that inspired him to be a hero. He always dreamed of having a job that would allow him to use all kinds of magic and master all skills. This legendary class was the sage of the stage, the hero everyone admired, the one who aspired to be. Suddenly, a mysterious figure begins to clap slowly, emerging from the darkness. A lonely figure has been watching the boy's memories unfold, as if at a private movie screening. Sitting in a luxurious cinema armchair, the masked man smiles, finding it all quite funny. Then he urges the performer to suffer more, promising that this agony will forge him into something stronger. The enigmatic man declares that the same sword that torments him will one day become his source of power. The scene then transitions to another of the protagonist's memories, this time on a baseball field. We see the bully, Gota, using his ability to conjure a purple energy bat. He scales the bat, hitting a classmate and sending the boy through the air. The tormentor mocks the fallen student, commenting that he was an excellent receiver for the ball. Gota then directs his fury at another student, complaining that he should have let the ball pass. A classmate tries to intervene, telling him that he is being too intense, and that he needs to calm down. Our hero watches everything, thinking how much classes have changed in the last 60 years. The focus is no longer on physical health, but on cultivating the unique abilities of the student. Even the teacher uses his powers, supervising the class from a floating platform on high. A student lights up his bat with a fire skill, while the pitcher prepares an energy ball. Moderna society is now built entirely around the constant use of these special skills. In the middle of this, Su gets ready to catch the flaming ball that is heading towards him. The attack crashes into his glove with immense force, creating a powerful impact. The flaming ball goes through the leather, and he grimaces from the pain in his hand. Other students make fun of him, saying that batting in his direction is a guaranteed score. Frustrated, the protagonist rips off his ruined glove and crashes it to the ground in anger. Gota yells at him, asking how many times this has happened, and orders him to pick up the ball. The professor tries to calm the situation down, but the bully tells him to shut his mouth, calling him a D-rank professor. Ignoring the insult, the instructor tells Su to go to the infirmary to have his wounds treated. Su walks away with a slight smile, thinking that at least they have a lot of energy. As he leaves, the other students mock him, laughing at his public humiliation. The attackers continue to laugh covertly, commenting on how easy the boy is to target. He comments on how annoying it is to deal with garbage, and that it only serves to vent. One of the bullies says he couldn't imagine living such a pathetic life, and wonders why he's even bothered. Covered in bandages, our hero walks down the hallway alone, feeling like absolute trash. Back in the classroom, a student asks her friends if they've heard the latest news. The girl reveals that a dungeon of East rank has materialized on Mount Doka, leaving everyone stunned. Su hears him, and now she understands why the sirens of the city were ringing all night. It is then explained that dungeons can be fixed or randomly generated all over the world. These breakout dungeons that appear out of nowhere pose a serious threat and require immediate investigation. A specialized team uses a device to measure the magical power radiating from the portal. The device registers an S rank, and like the abilities, the danger level goes from S to E. This is because the strength of the monsters inside is almost always proportional to the power reading. The key difference is that a random dungeon disappears once its final boss is defeated. If a dungeon is left unchecked, its creatures will eventually come out, forcing the government to send heroes. One student points out that the real danger lies in sending heroes with little power, which can lengthen the mission indefinitely. Gota dismisses the worry, but at that moment, His enters the classroom, and his friends look worried. The young man claims that he fell again, and the club president jokes that he should probably see a doctor about it. A girl named Sasayu, who has a protective ability, asks him if he's okay, noticing that he's always hurt. Su takes it as a joke, saying that he is used to getting hurt in the same place, which confuses her friend. She completely misunderstands his words, surprisingly concluding that he has some kind of fetish with wounds. Sasayo then apologizes for his own weakness, and pulls out a cutter to meet his friend's needs. With a crazy expression, she says that she will stab him with all her might to help him. The protagonist panics, insisting that he has misunderstood him again, and that's not what he meant at all. He stops her, telling her to put that idea on pause, and concentrate on reading the club script, but the president interrupts, announcing that he has something extremely important to tell them. Our hero and his friend look at him, puzzled by his sudden seriousness. It is explained that they are members of the drama club, a group that performs without using any skills. It's a small club, just the three of them, but the protagonist finds great solace there. He enjoys acting. It allows you to become someone else and briefly escape from your difficult reality. At the end of the day, the president prepares to share very unpleasant news with his friends. The young man reveals that his drama club is going to be closed, leaving his incomplete disbelief. Seated at a table, the protagonist demands an explanation, unable to process the news. His friend explains that traditional theater is considered obsolete and the school sees no reason to fund his club. The announcement devastates Su, leaving him completely shattered and speechless. To make matters worse, the president adds that both he and Sasayu have been invited to join the main drama club. With a sad smile, he confirms what he's already suspected. As a student with no ability, he was not invited. Although shattered, his strength a smile, and he says it's okay, as they wouldn't want someone like him anyway. He takes his backpack and lies, claiming that he was getting bored of the club and its limitations. His friends look at him sadly and worry, not believing his performance for a second. With his back to them, the protagonist declares that he has had enough of the theater and leaves. He pats his friend on the shoulder and wishes him luck at the new drama club. Sasayu sees through the facade, realizing that his senpai said all that for the sake of them. As the sun sets on the horizon, our hero walks alone through the streets of the city, feeling completely lost. The crushing weight of his reality rests on his shoulders, leaving him aimless. Suddenly, Goda appears from behind, putting a hand on the shoulder with an unfriendly smile. The bully grabs him tightly and says in a threatening tone, "Let me use your face for a while." The scene changes to a forest at night, the full moon casting an eerie glow in the darkness. Inside the dungeon, an armored guard lies on the ground, with completely defeated. Goda muses out loud, wondering how the security of an East-rank dungeon can be so lax. He and his friends reveal that they are only on duty until the main guild arrives. Mari then expresses her concern, asking if they will be okay, since entering a dungeon without permission is illegal. The blonde teenager points at Su, explaining that he brought him in to be the scapegoat if things go wrong. He then promises to negotiate with the school to save the drama club if his little field trip is successful. Our hero is surprised, thinking that the school cannot, ignoring the request of a C-rank user. With that promise in the air, the group of students venture into the dangerous S-rank dungeon. One of the boys expresses doubt, but Goda reassures him, saying that the monster's strength gradually increases. A graphic illustrates the layout of the dungeon. Slims, then goblins, with stronger creatures on each subsequent floor. Goda claims that if things get too dangerous, they can simply turn around and leave. He looks for a rare item to make a spectacular debut in the guild, just like a famous hero he admires. With this plan in place, students progress deeper through the dungeon's corridors. The protagonist, however, cannot shake off a feeling of suspicion about this whole risky enterprise. On the first floor, they encounter a swarm of slims, just as they had anticipated. These sticky creatures, however, have strange eyes and a much more threatening appearance than usual. One of the thugs invites Su to join the fight, but he refuses, citing bad memories. Faced with that, Goda prepares a burst of energy, while Mari launches another taunt towards our hero. The bully attacks the monsters mercilessly, declaring that they have no time for games. But in an instant, the aggressor's expression turns into surprise. His attack had no effect. A powerful shockwave erupts, sending the entire group flying backwards. The mysterious energy runs through one of the boys, leaving him completely paralyzed. Our protagonist's eyes widen in disbelief as he tries to understand what is happening. A colossal and terrifying shadow hovers over them, revealing a monstrous and strange creature. Even the Sims of La Masmora seem petrified by the presence of this unknown monster. The students are paralyzed with fear, wondering what kind of horrific creature stands before them. This monster does not look like anything registered, he is a complete stranger. The protagonist simply clicks his tongue, annoyed by this unexpected and dangerous turn of events. Reason that if this monster is on the first floor, it can't be much of a threat. God then prepares to attack the beast with his magic ball, hoping to end the fight quickly. He launches his attack with all his might, but the creature stops the blow casually with his sword. The enemy's blade meets the attack, resulting in a large explosion of purple energy. The stalker is completely stunned to see his signature move deflected so easily. Even Su is surprised that a rank ability can be countered so easily. The next moment, the creature prepares a quick and totally unexpected counterattack. The monster reveals his true form, summoning a halo of blue energy swords floating around him. Mari panics, unable to process the incredible vision before her. The creature manipulates the leaves like a puppeteer, ready to start its performance. Igar thus wonders if the monster is just playing with them, as it seems to act with extreme ease. The enemy then directs his floating swords upwards, preparing a new assault. Snatch one of the leaves out of the air, preparing a more direct hit. The monster unleashes a powerful slash, shooting a wave of crimson energy straight at them. The attack hits Gout squarely in the face, seriously injuring his left eye. The force of the blow is so immense that even our protagonist rolls away from the impact. All the other students are thrown backwards by the powerful shock wave. The creature then conjures a blue energy sphere in his hand, preparing his next move. He fires a flurry of explosions at one of the boys, who is desperately struggling to dodge them. The student throws himself to the ground, narrowly avoiding the attacks that detonate around him. Mari yells at Su to do something to give them some cover, but Igarashi complains that the low ceiling prevents him from using his ability to full power. Our protagonist observes the desperate struggle with a tense and worried expression. Suddenly, the monster hits Mari, who falls through the air as blue lightning crackles around her. The creature fixes its bright eye on the girl, ready for the final blow. Seeing this, she was paralyzed by shock, not knowing how to react to the imminent threat. However, the blonde girl manages to stop her fall, and prepares for an aerial counterattack. Using his jumping ability, he plummets, aiming for a devastating blow on the enemy. But the monster is easily pushed aside, and his attack crashes to the ground, creating a huge crater. Witnessing this, Igarashi is terrified, wondering what kind of monsters they are facing. He strikes back with his windstorm, enveloping the enemy in a vortex of green energy. But the creature fights back once again, using its blade to effortlessly cut through the gale. His eye glows brightly as he fixes the student with a deadly and threatening gaze. At this, Igarashi screams in terror, realizing that his attack was completely ineffective. Just then, Goda thanks them for giving him time, and starts channeling a new magic attack. He concentrates all his energy in his hands for one last desperate and powerful blow. Fully charged, the young man unleashes his attack with everything he has, hoping to defeat the monster. Goda fires two purple energy orbs that head straight towards the creature. The enemy is engulfed in a series of explosions of magical energy. His friends watch from a safe distance, praying that the attack has finally worked. Su maintains a somber expression as smoke from the explosion billows through the chamber. Goda, panting from the effort, manages to smile and asks if that was enough. But the creature emerges from the smoke and launches itself with an incredibly fast sword stroke. The reflection in the monster's eye is the stalker's face, contracted by absolute terror. Hurriedly conjures an energy blade to stop the enemy's blow. The aggressor screams that it's amazing, such a strong monster shouldn't be on the first floor. Then he realizes that the creature is completely ignoring our hero. Su deduces that the enemy reacts to magical energy, attacking semi-automatically. The blonde girl asks what he means by that, not understanding the implication. Goda realizes that someone without powers would not provoke an attack. He orders Su to hold him down. The protagonist hesitates, conflicted about whether to save the very stalker who has made his life miserable. Seeing his hesitation, Goda despairs, offering a hasty apology and begging for help. Su thinks it's a selfish way to apologize, but decides to act anyway. He throws himself forward and surrounds the strange creature from behind with his arms, trying to immobilize it. Su screams that abandoning them wouldn't make him any better than them, telling the blonde teen to attack now. But the aggressor just flashes a cruel smile and calls our hero a complete fool. The scene reveals that the stalker is far from the fight, without the slightest intention of helping. Our protagonist looks back, completely betrayed by his classmate. Goda mocks him, saying that a person without power could never be a real hero. He continues with his teasing, telling Su to have fun playing with the monster. Faced with this, the creature turns its attention to the protagonist, who struggles to contain it. The monster's eyes sparkle as he thinks that the unskilled, the inferior, are forbidden to even dream. The next instant, the creature turns around and impales our hero's back with his hand. The young man is lifted into the air, thinking that he can't even dream of being a hero. The enemy's body is splattered with the protagonist's blood as he looks on, horrified. Suddenly, the scene changes. One gloved hand seems to offer something to another. With this, Su's eyes transform, and his perspective of the situation seems to distort. He is alone on the stage of a theater, bathed in the light of a single spotlight. The young man examines the empty auditorium and wonders where he is. A shadowy figure emerges from behind the curtains, commenting that her performance was amazing. The masked man sits in the audience, declaring that his is the talent he has been looking for. Then, mockingly, she calls him to a first-class comedian. The mysterious figure reveals that he has been very interested in the young man for quite some time. Because of this, he orchestrated the whole situation to test him personally. The protagonist wonders if this man is powerful enough to control the mother monster. The same creature is slumped over on one of the theater seats, looking quite dejected. The man says that the boy betrayed his last act of kindness by wishing for despair, but Su replies that it's too late for that. He always knew it would end this way. With a satisfied smile, the masked man says that's precisely what he wanted to hear. He accuses the young man of simply acting as if there was hope, all while hiding his true self. Our hero returns his gaze with a serious and determined expression, remaining silent. The mystery man says he has the perfect role for someone like Su. The protagonist is confused, unable to understand the strange proposal of the figure. The masked man explains that he watched comedies for so long that he finally got bored. He claims that the human imagination is finite and incapable of creating something truly original. But one day, he had an epiphany that would completely alter his worldview. The figure realized that the unscripted life of a human was the supreme form of entertainment, and the greatest comedy of all is watching someone abandoned by fate see his dreams crushed. Su then understands his role, saying that that's what entertainment has become for this man. However, the masked man insists that the boy has completely misunderstood the situation. He declares that the young man's struggle is far from over and makes him a very tempting offer. The figure promises to grant him the necessary power to overcome all his suffering. With that power in his hands, he wants to see how far the boy will go before he inevitably breaks down. The protagonist is stunned, asking if the man is really giving him a skill. The figure answers cryptically, yes and no. He then reminds the young man of the monster's attack, suggesting that he should have realized the truth by now. The man reveals that his relative attacked him because he already possesses the latent power of an ability. What he is really offering you is the key to unlocking and correctly using this hidden power. The young man reflects on his past, admitting that the man was right about his despair, but claims that if he had really given up, he would not have clung to a facade of hope for so long. With a new determination, the young man decides to rewrite the script of his own tragedy. Confronting the mysterious figure, our hero accepts the offer, declaring that he will fight for him. But with a smug smile, he warns that the script will not turn out as the man expects, a response that the masked man seems to enjoy. Instantly, the entire stage of the theater shatters around them, and they begin to plummet into a dark void. The dungeon creature extends his hand towards the masked man, like a loyal and obedient servant. The mystery man simply leans back in his chair, seeming completely pleased with the spectacle. Our protagonist lands firmly back on the floor of the dangerous and dark dungeon. He swears that he will rise from the depths and show man what a real tragedy looks like. A faint smile touches the masked man's lips upon hearing the boy's bold statement. With a strange smile, he thinks to himself that this young man's performance is, in fact, very interesting. The scene returns to the forest, where the assailants casually remark that the end of their era is inevitable. Gout complains that the guy was useless until the end, it didn't even serve to relieve stress. The blonde girl adds with a touch of sadness that it was her favorite toy at school. The stalker then considers his next targets, contemplating anger for our hero's friends. And Garasi mentions that he likes freshman girls and suggests that he could have some fun with them. Suddenly, a mysterious voice emerges from the shadows, calling them pathetic for being mere followers. At this, the three thugs turn around, completely surprised by the sudden appearance. Gota looks on in disbelief, wondering if the person standing before them is really alive. Our protagonist emerges, leaning against a tree, with a hand pressed on his wounded chest. He says if it was just about tormenting him, he could have let it go. But with a gloomy look, he warns that he will not forgive the two murderers they sent. Auguras and answers who is going to finish with whom, and prepares a wind attack. The assailant is furious that he survived, shouting that his was not beaten up enough. Then he unleashes his gale with full force, intending to end the fight forever, but our hero effortlessly deflects the attack. With a single movement of his hand, the gust of wind is redirected, crashing into the forest trees with an explosive force. Reflected in the eyes of Auguras, and there is the result of the attack on his own face, contracted by the absolute shock. He is thrown to the ground by the impact, and looks at the protagonist, terrified. Su then declares that people like him, who oppress the weak, are the very embodiment of a class-based society. The young hero looks at him with disdain and says, "You have nothing, just like me before." And Garasi remains on the ground, unable to process the incredible turn of events. The blonde girl, stunned, asks if our hero just used an ability. Gota realizes that the power is the same kind as his friend's, but much more powerful. With a gloomy expression, Sulo points and announces that the work of revenge is about to begin. Then use the same wind skill to hit the fallen assailant. The protagonist unleashes the gust with a cold and determined look, with the intention of returning the pain. The attack hits Igasi squarely, and he screams in agony from the overwhelming power of the skill. The assailant falls to his knees, completely defeated, while the others watch in stunned silence. Gota and Mari are speechless, witnessing the unskilled boy with such great power. The blonde girl, however, outlines a slight and creepy smile, seeming to enjoy the situation. With a strange and excited twinkle in his eyes, he shouts the name of his fallen friend. Mari then uses her jumping ability, launching herself from above, with a sadistic and confident smile. He screams that there is no greater pleasure than crushing others to submit them to his will. Our hero coldly returns her gaze, and declares that, unfortunately for her, that's not going to happen. With his feet crackling with blue energy, she warns him that she will never trample on him again. The next instant, he jumps with incredible speed, intercepting her in the air, and leaving the girl in shock. The blonde can't believe it, thinking that such speed can't come from a normal skill. The protagonist stares at her with a serious and determined expression, while blue lightning flashes surround him. Gota screams in despair, demanding to know how he has another ability, when everyone is born with only one. The young man then asks with a look of contempt if they really haven't found out. With a smug smile, he reveals that he is simply using the skills that they themselves used against him. A memory of the man in the masquerade emerges, revealing the name of the boy's skill, learning. The figure explains that neither the government nor the guild knows the existence of this unique power. Our hero listens in silence, processing the amazing revelation about himself. The masked man clarifies that no one knew about it because the wearer himself was not aware of it. The skill allows the user to acquire and master any skill used against him. The young man realizes that all this time, he has just been absorbing skills, until he came to despise them, without understanding why. The mysterious figure explains that this is a natural limitation for an ability that only acquires powers. He then reveals that to actually use them, requires a separate ability, one that he is granting her now. The name of this new complementary power is reproduction, and it is granted to the young person. Back in the forest, Su's hand glows with blue energy, as a lightning bolt engulfs his feet. With that, he lands with a thunderous impact, ready for the next phase of the battle. The girl is completely stunned, speechless, as she sees him effortlessly counter his attack in the air. Then use the jumping skill to move nimbly between the trees of the forest. The young man explains that he already understands the mechanics of his power just by having seen it. He reveals that his skill is not flying, but the ability to generate propulsive force in his legs to jump. He then demonstrates that he can release that power in any direction, allowing complete freedom of movement. God is horrified, realizing that he has mastered their abilities better than they ever could. but the blonde girl calls him tacky, saying that his application of power is ridiculous. He compares him to a buzzing fly, stating that he has absolutely no style in combat. The aggressor screams that she is superior to him, and that a true gentleman would never hit a defenseless woman. Out of nowhere, a Slim emerges from the shadows and attaches himself to the girl from behind. The young woman panics, wondering what has grabbed her, as she cannot see or feel it. Our hero explains that he is a slime that completely blocks the victim's 5 senses. She adds that the monster is just playing with her, and will free her before she takes any real damage. A memory of her father pops into her mind as she watches the scene. The young man comments that her skill is useless, it only serves to bully small children. Trapped in a void of darkness, the girl loses all notion of space, not knowing what is real. Despair takes hold of her as she wonders how much time has passed, fearing to be trapped forever. Overwhelmed with terror, the young girl screams from inside the sticky creature. Sue comments that sensory deprivation is enough to drive anyone to the brink of insanity. Then she claims that a space without direction is the perfect prison for someone like her. With the girl neutralized, the slime discards her on the ground, and our hero turns his attention to the next target. Suddenly, the protagonist is hit in the face by a purple magical energy ball. Gota emerges from the shadows, laughing that his surprise attack was a success. The bully's smile fades when he sees that the young man has barely suffered any damage from the blow. Sue asks him if he has any pride as a member of the baseball club, thus attacking from the shadows. The assailant panics, realizing that Sue has also copied his special ability. Then he shoots another magic ball with all his might, screaming with rage and despair. But our hero simply deflects the attack with his bare hand, as if it were a real ball. The two then begin an exchange, batting the energy spheres back and forth. Gota is puzzled, and Sue asks him if he ever pays attention in class. He explains that magical energy dissipates due to air resistance and gravity. The same principle applies the moment the power leaves the caster's body. That is why the magic ball is more powerful when it is thrown as a punch than as a throw. The bully is speechless, grinding his teeth in pure rage and frustration. He can't understand how someone using the skill for the first time can be better than him. Our hero replies that it's obvious, because it's not the first time he's used these powers. A memory pops up, showing him mentally rehearsing these same movements over and over in his room. With that, Sue prepares for his final move, concentrating all his energy on one hand. Gota stares at him. His expression is a mixture of pure hatred and fear, not knowing how to fight back. Combine all 3 powers, jumping and manipulating the air, to minimize the resistance of the magic ball. Seeing the superior technique, the bully screams in terror, unable to react to the impending attack. The assailant screams, "You are supposed to have no powers," while the blow hits full on his stomach. Our hero calls him an incompetent fool, claiming that he can use these skills much better. With that, he channels a huge amount of purple energy for the final blow of the combat. The attack hits with overwhelming force, and the bully chokes up, feeling an agonizing pain run through his body. The young man says that arrogance and laziness led to his defeat, because he never really understood his own ability. Then he points to his head, commenting that it would have been better if he had used more. The brain? The scene changes completely, now showing the apartment building where our hero lives on a bright and sunny morning. We see the young man waking up, still dazed by the events of the previous night. He wonders if it was all a dream, but the sight of a magic ball forming in his hand confirms that it was real. Outside, students are walking to school, chatting about their everyday lives. He thinks that even with skills, the ritual of going to school has not changed much over time. Other students are talking. One mentions that clients feel safer with high-ranking ones. A low-ranking boy is pressured to walk with a group in order to avoid being an outcast in his class. Our hero kicks a can on the sidewalk, thinking that this ugly aspect of society will never change either. Suddenly, he stops, listening to the conversation of some students passing by. They are commenting that the boy has no power, and that the school turns a blind eye to the bullying he suffers. The protagonist wonders what would happen if he simply decided to beat up all those guys. He steps on the can hard, infusing it with energy, and wonders if using his new skill would change anything. At that thought, a memory of the masked man's evil smile flashes in her mind. But before he can act, a hand suddenly snatches the can from the ground right in front of him. It is his friend Sesai, who greets him with the can in her hand, with a slightly shy air. Our hero is surprised by his sudden appearance, being momentarily speechless. She explains that her class is doing a cleaning campaign and they need to collect cans. The young man feels that she has just saved him, not knowing what she could have done to those guys. Suddenly, the girl gestures for him to come closer, with a now more serious and determined expression. She reveals that she and the president are discussing a way to prevent them from closing their club. He reminds her that they are both scheduled to join the main drama club, so they don't need to worry. With a sad expression, the girl shows that she does not agree with the idea of leaving her club. Then she says that the time they all spent together is also incredibly valuable to her. With tears in her eyes, her friend begs her not to say such lonely and sad things. Seeing his reaction, the protagonist feels a twinge of guilt for being so cold and insensitive. He apologizes, realizing that she felt the same passion for improving their art together in that small room. The young man then thanks her for the cans, and she asks him if he is part of the cleaning committee. He decides that he should first take care of the adults who interfere with his main goal. The young man says that the first step is to negotiate with the school about the future of the drama club. Suddenly, she notices a hotel-like building, and asks her friend what it is. A huge crowd of reporters gathers at the venue for the strategy briefing of the S-rank Masmora. Several famous heroes make their appearance, and the fans scream wildly for the renowned Izumu-sama. A graphic explains that the government requests help from the guilds that then form teams to confront the Masmoras. The term S-rank team is official, but it is used as a great honor for teams composed of elite members. The generally accepted definition is a team where all the members are of rank O or higher, with more than half being of rank S. The protagonist's friend comments that there are only 3 or 4 such groups in the whole country. Our hero then has a flashback of the man masked and the S-rank dungeon creature. This leaves the young man deep in his thoughts, silently processing all the new information. Her friend notices her distant expression and asks if something is wrong, but he quickly denies it. From a distance, a mysterious figure watches the two students. From a black sedan, and, inside the vehicle, a woman with purple hair and a mask watches them with a serious look. He seems to recognize the girl, thinking that it can't be who she suspects. Back in the classroom, the teacher takes the rare opportunity to make an announcement. The instructor stands in front of the class, book in hand, ready to give the important news of the day. He announces that the whole school will observe the operation of the S-rank team in La Masmora. Our protagonist reflects on the news, while his classmates celebrate the unexpected day off. Then he turns around and asks if Goda is in the hospital, since she is absent today. The blonde girl glares at him, saying that she has a lot of nerve to speak so calmly after what she did. With a cold expression, the young man returns her gaze without showing any emotion. Then he replies that they also spoke calmly after everything they did to him. The girl points to the slime, perched on his chest, and demands that he do something about it. He replies that the ability only summons the creature. If he doesn't leave, he must have grown fond of her. The girl replies that making a friend who doesn't care about social hierarchy is a good thing for him. Then she thinks to herself that the one who really ignores the hierarchy is standing right in front of her. The young man ignores her comment and says that Goda is supposed to go somewhere after being discharged from the hospital today. The blonde girl gets nervous and screams that she doesn't know, insisting that she is not the bully's girlfriend. The teacher then intervenes, telling the girl to save her talk for after class. The young woman blushes with embarrassment as she looks at him with a slightly altered expression. She tells him to remember this, and the young man wonders what he did to earn her anger. The scene then transitions to an abandoned factory, located far from the city. Inside, a group of men is waiting for someone reminiscing about the past. One of them remembers a time when his younger brother cried because he couldn't play baseball. He brags about taking care of the bullies who were bothering him, but now admits that he feels ashamed of it. This is Goda's older brother, who calls him a wimp and asks if he's right. The bully shows up with his friends, and apologizes to his brother for the recent events. He begs his brother to take revenge for him as he can't move well after his last fight. The older man agrees, saying that weaklings who become arrogant really annoy him. He introduces himself as Goda Kenji and reveals his B rank ability to 0. The scene returns to the dungeon entrance, where the team of S-rank heroes is gathered. The leader describes their strategy, a front line of 4, with a support team of 3 behind them. Order the female members to stock up on recovery items for the entire team. The masked woman watches from a distance, silently praising the efficiency of the young leader. In the middle of the crowd, a student pushes others to get a closer look at the heroes. In the process, a girl is knocked to the ground, and her belongings are scattered in front of everyone. The other students look on, shocked by the blatant disrespect of their peers towards the heroes. The young woman thinks that the guy just disrespected the heroes, of that rank, and that he is finished. The student remains on the ground, mortified, and not knowing how to react to the situation. Just then, the team leader approaches her with a kind smile and offers her his hand. The masked woman watches this unfold from afar with an expression seriously and slightly suspicious. The hero apologizes for the collision, and other members of his team come over to help. The fallen girl thinks that they are nothing like the arrogant high-ranking users she is used to. The team leader then addresses the crowd, thanking everyone for coming to show their support. He says he hopes students will use what they witnessed today as motivation for their own future. Our hero watches everything, wondering if reaching a high rank gives one the composure to care about others. A teacher then directs everyone to the main square for the speech of the school principal. The protagonist is left behind, lost in his thoughts about everything he has just seen and heard. He feels a persistent sense of familiarity with the masked woman, but fails to locate her. A narrator explains that the conquest of the Masmaras begins with the routines of everyday life. Our hero hides behind a tree to avoid listening to the tedious speech of the director. Suddenly, his friend appears, having found him shirking his schoolwork. She teases him, saying that he is more of a criminal than he thought for running away like that. He asks her if she is allowed to be here, and she replies that everyone already assumes that she is sick. Her friend then asks her if she was looking at the masked woman in the crowd earlier. He confirms it, and the girl assumes that he has already learned from the mysterious heroine. Then he mutters under his breath that men always prefer women with bigger and more impressive attributes. Realizing what she just said, the young woman has a small nervous breakdown, completely surprised at herself. He claims to see a hornet's nest, exclaiming that if he is stung, his own attributes could grow. The young man shouts at him, pointing out that he is talking in meaningless fragments. At that moment, a voice from the forest interrupts their discussion. The director is in the middle of his speech about the importance of daily life in the conquest of dungeons. Suddenly, a huge fireball erupts in the area, and the students scream in terror. The students look on in horror, completely bewildered by what is happening. Our hero and his friend take cover behind a tree, and see that the director is in serious danger. Goda's older brother snatches the megaphone from the principal, and yells at the assembled students. He announces that the boring speech is over, and that now everyone will pay attention to him. He then uses his skill to draw a line on the earth, separating the students. The crowd of students is terrified by the bully's crude display of power. One of them recognizes him as Goda's older brother, the strongest student in the school. The aggressor then issues a challenge. If someone wants to leave, they will have to pass over him. Goda begs his brother not to go too far, but the older teenager seems indifferent to his image. He says his brother is weak for caring about what others think of him. The man then turns his attention to our hero, saying that his little brother owes him a favor. He claims that trash like Sue isn't even on his radar, but messing with his family is a different matter. Holding the megaphone, he shouts that he needs to give an example of what happens to those who challenge him. The aggressor then declares that Sue will receive 10 punches from each of the students of the school. Our hero watches the scene in silence, with a serious expression, and tinged with concern. Goda's brother threatens to incinerate all the students, and the young man does not reveal himself. His friend calls him worried about his name. but he has the courage to step up and confront the bully. He appears in front of the assailant, who tells him to be a good punching bag. The young man remains silent for an instant, while the dust swirls at his feet. With a cold look, she asks the bully, "Hey, have we met before?" The aggressor is completely puzzled by the unexpected question. She comes closer, getting face to face with Sue and asking him if he is serious. In an instant, our hero gives a powerful kick in the face to the bully. The man is thrown out by the force of the blow, completely stunned. Her friend is shocked by the sudden violence and shouts her name in alarm. He grabs her by the hand and tells her that they need to run now. One of the students yells at the bully that the boy is running away after abandoning them all. The assailant retrieves his megaphone, his face turned into a mask of pure anger and frustration. Then she realizes that the guy has completely overshadowed the performance she had so carefully prepared. An evil smile is drawn on his face as he looks at our hero, thinking that this just got interesting. One of the students wonders why the boy doesn't show up, unleashing chaos. The president of the drama club regrets that they did nothing to help his friend with the bullying. He then concludes that this is precisely why they are in this mess now, being threatened by the bully. Our hero thinks that he was simply abandoned and left behind. That's all. The dense forest surrounds them as they flee from the turmoil. He realizes that they are not being chased and considers using his jumping ability to create more distance. But she dismisses the idea. Her friend still does not know that she has powers. The girl is out of breath and suggests that they slow down a little to rest. He takes her by the hand, asking if she's okay as they go through the forest. Her friend says she understands her feelings and that no one can blame the senior. He continues, saying that even if they chose to ignore it, no one could blame them for it. The young man thinks that he would have been left for dead without thinking about it. Twice. He squeezes her hand harder and urges her to hold on just a little longer. The girl looks at him with an expression that is both slightly embarrassed and deeply worried. Their escape eventually leads them to an isolated lake in the heart of the dense forest. Suddenly, a shadow shoots out of the trees, crashing to the ground right in front of them. Drop's brother shows up, asking if they really thought they could escape him. Our hero is surprised. He did not expect that the final boss himself would chase after them. The bully claims that the others were too slow, so he came to finish the job himself. The young man tells his friend to run, while he creates a distraction for her to escape. He then directs her towards the administration office, telling her to get help. He instructs her to call the firefighters and the police, telling them it's just a simple forest fire. The young man explains that the bully is after him, and that if they break up, she is his only chance. He says he can't endanger the other students and he should stand here. With a determined look, she tells her friend to go get help as fast as she can. The girl nods, tears running down her face, but says she needs to do one thing before she leaves. Then he activates his ability, placing a protective barrier around the body of our hero. The young girl's power materializes a shield that will reduce the damage received for a short time. She says goodbye to him, telling him to take care of himself, while she runs to get help. With a smug smile, the young man thanks her and turns to face Goda's brother. The bully notices that her ability seems to be a defensive enhancement that mitigates the damage. He then reveals his own steel ability, dismissing protecting her as an inferior version. Our hero realizes that the power of the aggressor hardens his body to the consistency of metal. The young man accepts the challenge, saying that he will see if her skill is as useless as he claims. With that, he uses the storm's skill, throwing a powerful gust of wind at his enemy. But the bully stands his ground, unmoved by the attack, and says that's nowhere near enough. Suddenly, he realizes that the wind attack was mixed with water drops. The bully is swallowed up by a huge wave of water, trapping him in the middle of the forest. After that, a rain of fire falls from the sky on the trapped assailant. A huge explosion of fire erupts, and the bully screams in pain from the combined assault. From a distance, the other students watch the spectacle, wondering why it has suddenly started raining. The students look at the sky in confusion, and one of them notices the sudden downpour. The combination of water and fire results in a massive steam explosion inside the forest. The attacker now understands that the young man used the lake water that all this was part of his plan. The protagonist thinks to himself that he has successfully attracted the main target, and that the teachers can take care of the rest. He says he doesn't care about the people who ignored him, he cares about the people who were nice to him. Battered and bruised, the bully asks with an expression full of rage if all this was part of the script of his. Just then, the president of the club emerges, stating that bullying is not for weaklings like him. The next moment, his classmate throws a powerful punch in the face of the attacker. The man flies out backwards, crashing into several trees along the way. But the president injures his own hand in the process, clutching at a tree in pain. The bully declares that the method does not matter as long as the final goal is achieved. Our hero tells him to see for himself, and the aggressor turns around with a confused expression. The young man admits that he would have been in serious trouble if his friend had not used her protective skill on him. He praises his opponent, acknowledging that he is, as rumored, the strongest B rank in the academy. With a smile, he adds that the skill is not bad at all, and decides that he will take it for himself. His hand then glows with a blue energy as he learns his enemy's steel skill. Meanwhile, the other students complain about the rain, and one shouts that the fire is going out. A boy in a sweatshirt tries to fan the flames, but another tells him that he already knows, clearly irritated. The president thinks this is bad. The fire was containing them well, but Sesai suddenly appears in the air. The girl then jumps on him, attacking with a powerful kick in the middle of the flames. Sesai is baffled by the strength of her own attack and the enemy's resistance. She and the president look into the clearing and see that the fire has finally been extinguished. In the midst of the confusion, a teacher arrives, shouting for all students to leave immediately. The blonde girl walks away, complaining that stomping on an annoying guy does not give her any satisfaction. With an irritated expression, she swears that she will not accept being defeated by a scumbag like him. Meanwhile, our hero understands that the ability transforms skin into steel, boosting both attack and defense. The abuser then reveals that he already knew about the copying power, and mocks the boy's incomplete version. Despite the provocation, he remains stoic, with his arm still transformed into solid steel. The assailant charges forward, declaring that using skills requires a true innate talent. But the protagonist intercepts the blow with his steel arm, resulting in a deafening impact. The defensive force is so great that Gota's brother is thrown out by the collision. The young man deduces that the skill has a limit of hardness, since it turns magic into physical matter. In a quick movement, he grabs the abuser's arm, taking him completely by surprise. Our hero explains that instead of blurring power, it is more effective to concentrate it on a single point. Then he concentrates all his energy and deals a devastating blow to the enemy's stomach. The protagonist stares at his opponent, his eyes filled with grim determination for the final blow. The young man's steel hand shatters the aggressor's defense with surprising ease, but the abuser just smiles sarcastically and says that he had no idea that such a weakness existed. Then he tightly holds our hero's arm with an unexpected and surprising strength. Sue stares at him, confused, asking what he means by that, not understanding his reaction. The abuser holds him tightly, and his question, "What is the point of all this?" Suddenly, the protagonist drowns, realizing that he has been hit by an internal shockwave of the enemy. With that, the assailant crashes him to the ground and gives him a brutal punch straight to the face. Knocked down and wounded, he feels the sting of the attack, but his steel arm remains active. And that's it. Without a moment's pause, the man hits him on the back and neck with a hard and precise blow. The impact makes our hero Trastaville backwards, unable to stand. The aggressor presumes that, despite the hardness, he still has an advantage over him because he is of rank B. Exhausted, the protagonist collapses on the floor, struggling to catch his breath to continue the fight. The abuser complains that he is a nuisance when low-ranking people like him and his friend do not know what their place is. Then he orders them to act like the weak ones they are, because they are just getting in his way. Our hero thinks that he could easily win this if he combined the steel skill with his other attacks, but decides that he must defeat him in the most humiliating way possible in order for the lesson to stick with him. The aggressor finds it funny and challenges him to fix things with fists. With a smile, he tells the young man to dare, allowing him to even aim at his vital points. With the challenge accepted, the protagonist charges towards his enemy, ready for a fight. As he runs, he concentrates to focus his power even more for the next hit. His steel arm seems to grow even bigger and more formidable than before. He knows that he needs to concentrate the skill to his absolute limit in order to break through his opponent's defense. The young man throws a punch with full force, a massive impact of energy. But the aggressor just smiles disdainfully and asks if a mosquito just landed on him. The abuser then grabs our hero's arm with all his strength, preparing a counterattack, and makes a special technique, taking advantage of all his weight to crash him to the ground. The force of the impact causes the protagonist to spit, leaving him completely stunned. The aggressor teases by saying that no matter how much he copies the skill, it will always be a cheap imitation. He brags that he is the only one who can truly master the skill and prepares to trample on him. Mercilessly, the man crushes the boy's head with his boot, humiliating him even more. But our hero manages to dodge a rolling kick and gets to his feet, ready to keep fighting. The abuser teases him by saying that he never had a chance and that he even let him aim at his vital points. With a look of grim determination, Sue stands up and declares that the conditions have finally been met. The assailant is confused, and the young man asks him what the name of the movement he just used was. Then he recites the strange name of the movement that the assailant had shouted before attacking. With that, the protagonist teases him, asking if he really came up with a name for his attack. The aggressor is enraged by the mockery and clenches his fists, his face turned into a mask of pure hatred. With the fury etched on her face, she calls him a wretch and prepares to charge again. The man pounces, screaming with rage at the humiliation. With a cold expression, our hero calls him an idiot and prepares his counterattack. This time, the protagonist's punch goes through the steel defense and connects fully with the abuser. The blow tears the assailant's stomach open, shattering his protective ability. The man screams in agony and falls to his knees, completely defeated by the single blow. He cannot believe that his attacks were useless and wonders how this could have happened. Our hero then asks him if he wants to know why his attack power suddenly shot up. The assailant looks at him confused, and the young man says that he misjudged the situation. The abuser is even more baffled, and the protagonist reveals that it was his defense that was increased. In a flashback, she explains that the first hit activated her friend's protective ability. Sue then clarifies that while the abuser was letting his guard down, he was rapidly increasing his dominance. With a sphere of energy glowing in her hand, she reminds him of the assailant who called her ability rubbish. The man is stunned by the revelation and breaks into a cold sweat, speechless. With that, our hero declares that the inferior garbage skill was actually that of the abuser himself. Defeated, the aggressor collapses on the floor, and Sue tells him to swear that he will never bother them again. But the man just clicks his tongue, his face a mask of pure hatred and frustration. Our protagonist then prepares his fist of steel and threatens him, saying that this is the end of the road. Suddenly, a new figure appears in the clearing, interrupting the confrontation between the two students. The young man looks and is completely shocked by the scene in front of him. God appears holding her friend hostage and apologizes with a cloyingly sweet smile. With his brother defeated on the ground, Sue screams the girl's name, desperate. The blonde teenager threatens him, saying that he knows exactly what he has to do to save her. Our hero is paralyzed, clenching his teeth in pure impotent rage. Even in danger, her friend begs him not to worry about her and to save himself. The young man raises his hands in surrender as she shouts his name, dead with worry, but with a gloomy look. He says he can't do that and accuses Go of abandoning everyone. Go's brother gets to his feet with difficulty, saying that the boy did something unnecessary, but that it was a good move. Then he screams that it's better than being seen as low-ranking trash by everyone there. Meanwhile, the protagonist's friend remains a hostage, with a war-laden expression. With his hands up, the young man is desperately looking for a way out of this impossible situation. He continues with his hands raised, wondering if there is any possible way to escape. Abruptly, a mysterious blue-haired woman materializes, attacking the assailants with her sword. The masked figure moves at a blinding speed, ready to put an end to the chaos. His blow hits God's brother squarely, and the man screams in pain from the surprise assault. The blonde teenager is completely shocked by the scene, and the young man's friend looks on in disbelief. The woman tells them to calm down, as she hit them with the flat side of her sword to avoid serious injury. But reveals that her sword does not have a dull side, she simply enchanted it with a concussive force. Our hero recognizes her instantly. She is a member of the S-rank group of heroes. She explains that she felt a B-rank magic signature, and decided to investigate as a precaution. Seeing that the danger has passed, her friend calls him by name, her voice full of relief. Suddenly, the masked woman pounces down, and hugs our hero tightly, calling him by name. The young man and his friend are completely stunned by the heroine's unexpected show of affection. With a smile, she says she knew it was him, and hugs him even tighter with joy. Totally baffled, he babbles her name, wondering if she really is who he thinks she is. She then removes her mask, revealing that she is mine, an A-rank magic sword user. With that, a memory arises. A young Su is sitting alone outside his house. In the flashback, a girl comes up to him and asks if he is the boy who lives there. She introduces herself, explaining that she has just moved into the house next door. With a warm smile, the young woman extends her hand, revealing that she is the older girl who became friends with him for the first time. The boy thinks that if she had not been there, his life would have been very different. He admits that his spirit would have been broken by his own father's relentless cruelty. The scene flashes back to the present, showing the two assailants tied up together in the woods. The protagonist says that he is amazed that she has become a member of an S-rank group. She hugs him again, joking that she has grown a lot since the last time they saw each other. At this, the young man looks at his friend Sasai, who is watching the scene from a distance. The girl is completely shocked, her expression darkens as she witnesses his closeness. Embarrassed, he asks her to release him, and the heroine asks what they should do with their captives. But the abuser insists that this is not over, claiming that they were only taken by surprise because they were careless. Then he screams that they will come back for revenge, and the next time will be different. The aggressor continues, claiming that the guy only won with some kind of cheap trick. The protagonist's friend observes the entire exchange in silence, with a deeply thoughtful look. Our hero thinks to himself that it is painfully obvious that the abuser is just weak, anyway. The man threatens him, telling him to watch his back at night, because his friends will come for him. With a sinister smile, he warns that they will attack not only him, but also the girl and her entire family. In an instant, our hero hits them with a powerful gust of green wind. The aggressors disappear, and he claims that he could have defeated them much more easily from the very beginning. The heroine looks at him in surprise, without understanding the sudden and ruthless action of the young man. Her friend is surprised, wondering if her senpai really possesses an ability. He then explains that he held back his power simply to demonstrate the huge difference in their levels. With a dark look, he warns that if the aggressor shows his fangs again, he will be eliminated. The two thugs are completely terrified by the unexpected and chilling threat of the protagonist. Our hero's friend continues to watch, her expression filled with deep concern about the situation. Mayo claims that the high-ranking are protected by law, but that does not give them the right to disturb the peace. He then threatens them, saying that as a ranka, he will take appropriate action against them. The brother of Drop stutters with fear, assuring the high-ranking heroine that he understands. With the situation resolved, the group remains silent while the attackers are arrested. It is explained that those who depend solely on their rank are inherently weak against the truly powerful in society. While the abusers are being taken away, he thinks that he wanted to demonstrate a clear difference of power. Then he reflects that changing society is not so simple, and that May would always be out of reach. The protagonist thinks that he never imagined that he would see his childhood friend again. The scene changes to our hero's apartment building on a very sunny morning. The young man opens the door of his apartment, still looking half asleep. Suddenly, Mayo is there, holding a breakfast plate and greeting him with a cheerful smile. He's completely stunned to see her inside his house, acting like she's perfectly normal. Abruptly, he asks her if she has started to like mayonnaise, which only adds to her confusion. Then we see several meals arranged on the table, implying that they used to eat together often. The scene changes, showing the blonde girl at the breakfast table with a sour expression. Our hero and his friend, Sesai, are also present, and the atmosphere is fraught with an uncomfortable tension. With everyone gathered, the young man wonders how the hell the situation ended up being so strange. It is explained that all this began a few days earlier, when Mayo came to visit him for the first time. In a flashback, his question if clearing the rank Masmora, that really will take that long. Mayo explains that the mechanics of the dungeon are unique, and the guild expects to be stationed in the city for about a month. The protagonist is confused by the term mechanics, wondering if it means that he has not encountered the monsters. He thinks about the enemy he faced, questioning whether such a thing is considered trivial for a team of that rank. The heroine mentions that she was surprised to learn that he now lived alone. The young man replies that she can probably imagine the reason. At this, her childhood friend simply nods silently while washing the dishes in the sink. He comments that a lot can change in 7 years, and that back then they were just children. Mayo then comments that he too has changed a lot, and all for the better. She then takes him by surprise by asking him when he started being able to use abilities. The young man knew that she would ask, but her friend tells her that it's okay if she doesn't want to talk about it. He then reveals that it's not that he's hiding it, but that he fears the consequences if people found out. A memory of the masked man pops into her mind, and she feels an instinctive need to keep it a secret. Unsure of what to say, the protagonist simply holds his cup, remaining silent for a moment. With a serious expression, Mio reveals that her magic ability is at a B level, possibly even a level. Our hero is completely shocked by this revelation, and listens very carefully. She explains that such a range of power comes with immense responsibility, and that guilds compete fiercely for such talent. Mayo then tells the protagonist that he will have to consider how he intends to use this great power he possesses. This leaves Sue mired in his thoughts, wondering how he should use his newfound ability. He wonders if anything would really change if he just went around hitting everyone with his powers. His childhood friend watches him in silence, seemingly understanding his inner conflict. After a long pause, he says he has finally made a decision on what to do. Abruptly, she makes him a proposal, asking if she can come and cook dinner for him every day. The young man is surprised, and asks how that would work with her duties in the S-rank group. She explains that her job is quite relaxed, with fixed schedule, no overtime, and 2 days off a week. Our hero comments with an impassive expression that sounds like a very healthy work environment. The heroine explains that outside of work, she would be stuck in a hotel, and that she prefers to take care of him anyway. He then continues, saying there's another reason he wants to be around. The young woman confesses that she feels a little uncomfortable and out of place in the hotel with others. With a smile, she says she feels much more comfortable doing things at home. The young man laughs, commenting that she is still as simple as he remembers her. The scene then moves on to the drama club, while he thinks about the problems he needs to solve. He then reveals to his friends that he can now use a special and unique ability. The club president is stunned, asking if his friend really has a skill now. She gets excited, asking if that means everyone can join the main drama club together. The protagonist interrupts him with a serious look, saying that it's not that simple. The protagonist states that he would prefer to continue with his own drama club, if possible. His friends are surprised, speechless at the unexpected statement of the young man. He apologizes for being selfish, but explains that he wants to keep his ability a secret for the time being. With a smile, he reminds them that the time they have spent together is also incredibly valuable to him. The young man clarifies that it's not just about acting, this place itself has become important to him. With a relieved smile, Sesai thanks her, saying that she is delighted with her decision. She then mentions that she's been making some pretty scary faces around school lately. At this, the young man only says his name, looking a little nervous about the comment. She apologizes and gives her friend a gentle pat on the head to reassure her. Suddenly, the blonde girl appears at the door. While the club president watches from a distance, she accuses him of harassment, leaving the protagonist completely embarrassed and nervous. The young man turns around and asks her what she's doing here, and she puts a wad of papers in his hands. He takes the documents and asks what they are, and she replies that it's obviously a request. He explains that he went from class to class collecting signatures for the survival of the drama club. The protagonist is stunned by the huge number of signatures he managed to gather. The girl then reveals that her class is very divided after the incident with Goda. He explains that some feel caught in the crossfire, while others are grateful that he took a stand. With a look of contempt, he concludes that, anyway, everyone is a nuisance. Sase watches the scene in silence, clearly annoyed by the blonde girl's presence. Then he mutters that the word tyrannical seems to fit perfectly with the blonde girl. The purple-haired girl looks at the blonde, her arms crossed defiantly. Sase then accuses her of having also done terrible things to her senpai in the past. The blonde girl replies to him, asking what relationship he has with the protagonist, to give him the right to intrude. With that, the two begin to argue, and the young man tries to mediate between them. Suddenly, Mayo appears at the door, and calls him by name, stopping the girl's discussion. With a smile and a shopping bag, she greets him, saying that she has finally found him. Everyone is surprised, and the protagonist asks why his childhood friend is at school. She explained that she was buying ingredients for dinner, and thought that they could come home together. The other two girls are shocked, wondering what she means by dinner and coming home together. With a warm smile, New invites his friends to join them, and they also want to have dinner. The two girls just look at her, suspicious and speechless at the unexpected invitation, and it is explained that this is how everyone ended up in this awkward situation around the table. The blonde girl then comments that he has a visiting wife, making the young man nervous. With a look of disdain, she calls him a beast, saying that he is less than a normal human. This provokes a jealous outburst from the purple-haired friend, who squeezes her fork tightly. With a crazy gleam in her eyes, she says she is a good cook, and suggests cooking with the meat of the beast. The blonde girl finds the idea intriguing, commenting that they could get along very well. Meanwhile, the club president watches from afar, thinking he did the right thing by declining the invitation to dinner. The protagonist panics and seeks Mio's help, but she just watches with an amused smile. With a calm expression, she says that she feels quite relieved by this whole situation. The protagonist is confused by his answer, and his childhood friend approaches him. With a kind smile, he asks her if she's having fun right now. With all this, the young man is speechless, with a surprised look on his face, unable to answer her question. The scene changes to later that night, and he reflects that he couldn't answer her at that moment. He says goodbye to his friends in front of his apartment building and enters. The protagonist thinks that society is still full of discrimination and that nothing has really changed. Sitting in his living room, he examines the petition that the blonde girl managed to arrange for the club. He realizes that other students are really grateful to him for standing up to bullies. Holding the petition, she feels that her life is finally about to change for the better. But a month passes and the city sky is gray and rainy, a bad omen. The day of the S-rank group's departure is approaching, and the young man looks thoughtfully out of the window. Suddenly, his mobile phone rings and he answers, not recognizing the number. With the phone to his ear, his expression changes to one of total shock at the news he receives. He shoots out of his house in a panic, running across the rainy street without a second thought. On the other end of the line, Mayo's father reveals that the young girl had returned home some time ago. Then he says that she is currently in the ICU of the general hospital, and the young man runs to meet him. The father explains that the surgery saved his life, but his condition is still critical. With a broken voice, she reveals that they found evidence of physical abuse on her daughter's body. The protagonist is stunned, struggling to understand what this could mean. Suddenly, he hears a scream on the other end of the line, and calls Mayo's father in alarm. The screams persist, and then the line cuts out, leaving the protagonist in a state of total panic. She turns to the hospital, wondering if something terrible is happening to Mayo's family. With her eyes filling with tears, she runs as fast as she can to the hospital. Using his jumping ability, he remembers that the ICU is on the 5th floor of the building. Inside, he finds the parents demilitarized and taken hostage by a mysterious man. Her father says he had heard rumors, but he never imagined that the manipulation of information was so real. The mother then asks if they are going to be removed to protect the image of the high-ranking. The man in the helmet tells him to shut up, and in return, he will not take their lives. He explains that they have an important social position, which would make simply eliminating them complicated. Suddenly, a dark energy envelops one of the hostages, who screams in pain. The man reveals that his ability allows him to extract and erase people's memories. Then he warns that memories are treacherous and can resurface with the slightest trigger. With that, the man prepares to erase every memory they have of their daughter. He proposes to place them in separate facilities to ensure absolute secrecy. Mayo's father is horrified, realizing how far they will go to protect the high-ranking. The man says they can appoint a new president for their company from their new homes. He then promises them generous state protection in exchange for their cooperation. Maya's mother becomes hysterical, screaming that she would rather die than live like this. Her husband looks at her with a serious and worried expression, not knowing how to respond. In a cold tone, the man reiterates that removing him would be too much trouble. Suddenly, our hero appears in the room, enveloped in a green aura, and points to the man in the helmet. He explains that his ability cannot erase sound, but he can mask his presence inside a storm. The young man uses the wind to dampen his movements, allowing him to approach undetected. The sound of the wind and the broken glass completely camouflage your entrance. He then prepares to use the ambient noise to hide a surprise attack on the enemy. Mio's mother sees him, and desperately screams at him to stop, not to do anything reckless. The protagonist is surprised, not understanding the woman's panicked reaction. The man in the helmet turns to look at him, looking slightly surprised by his arrival. Maya's father urges her to give up, warning that they will be married if they try to escape. Our hero is shocked by the man's calm attitude, and tries to bring him back to reality. The agent comments that he is too calm, and that, honestly, this whole situation has become quite tedious. Then he claims that any resistance is useless, since he has already erased the memories of May. With a look of pure and unaltered hatred, Sue glares at the man, refusing to believe what he just heard. The girl's parents are completely devastated, speechless at the terrible news. With a cruel smile, the agent says that if everyone forgets, no one will feel lonely in the end. He then reveals that the girl should have endured it all in silence instead of talking. Maya's parents look at him with expressions of pure hatred and disgust for his words. The man claims that she left a gap in his fighting strength, and is now nothing more than a social waste. In a callous tone, he compares it to household garbage that the government should collect and dispose of. Maya's father is enraged by his words, calling him a bastard and disgusting parasite. The agent says that his anger will fade, and that the only joy his job gives him is to watch this unfold. With a look of pure hatred, she stares at the man who has destroyed the lives of her friend and her family. Outside the hospital, the young man leans on a pillar, completely desolate. People pass by him with their umbrellas, oblivious to the pain and suffering of the young man. Two women give him a look of pity, but quickly continue on their way in the rain. Clutching her head, she wonders why it all had to end this way. She remembers the signs of violence on Mayo's body, and deduces that the culprit must be someone close to her. The people's words echo in his mind, and he begins to piece together the grim puzzle. Suddenly, remember the slogan of the hero, which equalizes power for the people, and everything fits. The young man looks up at a poster with the leader of the S-rank group, and a terrible suspicion takes root. He refuses to believe that the hero everyone idolizes could be responsible for something so heinous. Another poster shows other members of the group, supposedly protectors of the village. The protagonist knows that he has no concrete proof, but the seed of doubt has been planted. Two students pass by, excitedly talking about how the group leader is a real hero to them. Two men in suits also praise the heroes, saying that the country is safe in their hands. A man in a sweatshirt comments that it would be great if all high-ranking people were like them. This reveals the public's adoration for S-rank heroes, whose status is protected by the system itself. The young man clenches his fists in anger and disgust at understanding the truth behind the facade. With a determined look, he declares that it is a repulsive sight, and that he will do something about it. The scene then shifts to a silent and empty hospital hallway. Back at his apartment, The young man thinks that the last month feels like a complete invention. Suddenly, he notices something on his table and comes over to inspect it. With a look of surprise, he realizes that it is a letter that was left for him. He recognizes Mio's handwriting and finds a mask next to the envelope. The letter is addressed to him, and the young man picks it up to read his friend's message. In the letter, she jokes that by the time he reads this, she will already be gone, like in the mangas. He apologizes for his abrupt departure and warns her not to investigate the reason, as it is too dangerous. The young man wonders if the agent who erased the memories has the answers. In the letter, Mio recalls the day they met, when they were small children. With a loving smile, she writes that in reality, he was the one who saved her, not the other way around. He explained that he was giving in under the pressure of being a rank, and his father suggested a change of environment. The scene then shifts to the city, showing the towering skyscrapers where she used to live. In the letter, her friend asks if she remembers when they used to pretend to act in plays. In his games, little Sue was always the hero, with everything and his red cape and mask. Meanwhile, my little girl was the hero he always saved. The young man says that he remembers him, and that time was also a real salvation for him. He then reveals that she started wearing a mask to look like him, and asks him to keep it. Her friend writes that every day with him was fun, because he never cared about skill ranges. With a determined hand, she writes that he has always been her one true hero. In the letter, the young woman says that, knowing him, he will probably be angry with her for this. An image of two hands touching accompanies the special request of the letter. He begs her to please not hate the world, despite everything that has happened. With a sad smile, the young woman writes that a real hero should protect the world from all evil. Our hero bows his head, his expression dark and distressed, as he reads the words of his friend. She reminds him that his world is now full of many important things and people. Her friend urges her to focus on those people, and not on the corrupt underworld of society. With her eyes closed, she writes that she prays from the bottom of her heart for his happiness, but the protagonist wrinkles the letter, saying that he cannot fulfill her request. He thinks that forgetting everything is exactly what those monsters would want. Holding the mask, he declares that he does not need to be a hero to protect this society. With a gloomy expression, he says that he would rather be the clown who collapses the entire stage. The scene changes to a batting cage, where Goda is practicing his swing. A classmate approaches, saying that he has important news about a certain girl. It reveals that the woman who put the Rangoa users on her site is now in critical condition in hospital. His friend then shows him the news on his phone, suggesting that this is the perfect opportunity to get revenge for his wedding. He seems thoughtful, and his classmate anxiously awaits his response. The friend is confused by her silence, and the stalker says that he is not worried about the woman. He then reveals that his real concern is now our protagonist. The stalker explains that the low-ranking ones can't see him, but Sue has a murderous aura around him. With that, the scene changes to the school, the sky a gloomy and heavy shade of gray. Back at the drama club, the president announces that he has submitted the signatures to the school board. He thanks them for their help, saying that even with a small number, they did everything they could for the club. Suddenly, her friend calls the protagonist, asking him what he is doing. With intense concentration, our hero is at a sewing machine, creating something. He explains that he is borrowing the machine to make himself a costume. With a smile, the young man says that he could not stand idly by, so he is concentrating on his chances of survival. Sasai thinks that even with Mio in critical condition, his senpai acts like everything is fine. The scene changes to a park at night, where a group of thugs are on the lookout, pulling out a fallen man. They yell at the stinky old man to get the hell out of the park, kicking him mercilessly as he lies on the ground. One of the attackers asks if they really think he's doing this just to relieve stress. Suddenly, a blond man appears, introducing himself as the strongest and most beautiful B-rank in the city. He then announces that his organization has been commissioned for an environmental beautification project. With a smile, he orders the homeless to leave the city for purification. A mysterious voice asks him if he would like some help with that purification. The blond man turns around confused as our hero appears in his new suit and the mask of mine. Then he asks if the newcomer is a friend of the old man, or if he is just feeling pity. With an air of superiority, The man declares that he is the strongest person in this city. In an instant, Su hits the aggressor with a powerful magic ball. Purple. The blow hits the man squarely in the face, sending him flying by the force of the impact. The other thugs are shocked and shout the name of their fallen leader. With that, he uses his ability, unleashing a powerful burst of energy that knocks down all the remaining bullies. The group's leader tries to negotiate, offering him an executive position in their citywide operation. Even injured, the man says that cleaning the city of low-ranking people produces an incredible feeling. Having lost patience, our hero throws a devastating punch in the face at the assailant, leaving him on the floor. The masked figure then agrees with his statement, saying that it is indeed true for him. The old man who was being assaulted is left on the ground, moaning in pain amid the chaos. All the other aggressors are now scattered on the ground, completely defeated. The scene then changes to a mother and her little daughter walking down the street at night. Suddenly, the girl stops and looks up at the sky with a surprised expression. High above the rooftops, a mysterious bat-like silhouette streaks across the night sky. The girl recognizes the figure and calls him Mr. Bat, with a curious look. The protagonist thinks that they said that if he had the power to fight alone, he could have saved Mayo's parents. She reflects that she might as well have saved her friend, and exposed the high-ranking corrupt people behind it all. With a fiery gleam in his eyes, he vows to drag them all to his stage, and make them pay for their crimes.